What is Satori? The translation of Satori, which is a Japanese word, is usually given as a glimpse of enlightenment or a moment of illumination. But we have to be careful with such ideas, because in the Satori Awareness Intensive workshop, we don't want to be too concerned with ideas or beliefs. In the workshop, a Satori experience simply means a moment of truth, a direct experience of truth, a moment of direct knowing, a moment of direct knowing who you are, if you like, a moment of being with what is, a moment of totally accepting what is, without any opinion, without any judgment, simply being with this moment of what is. For many of us, as adults, we don't know actually what our truth is. We don't know who we are. Why? As kids, from a very young age, we're taught to be in a certain way. We're taught how to behave in a certain way. It starts off with our parents and then our teachers. It can be influenced by religion, which all conditions us. We behave, we function in a certain way, not necessarily according to our truth. Now, as we grow up, we begin to see that, and many of us then begin to search, to seek. But often then, we're replacing one set of conditionings or thrust upon us ideas for another. We start reading books of wise people, we start attending lectures and workshops, we start believing what those teachers, what those books tell us. So in a sense, we're replacing one set of beliefs with another. Now Satori, the workshop, is about going beyond those beliefs and into finding out what is true for me. So the Satori workshop sets up conditions for participants to experience directly what is truthful for them. To experience directly, if you like, who they are. Not what they've been told, not what they've read, but their own truth. And in terms of the Satori workshop, that is a Satori experience. When you experience directly what truth is, when you experience directly who you are, when you simply know what is. And that's the thing about the Satori experience, there's no doubt. The mind is always in a constant state of doubt and uncertainty. A Satori experience is where there is absolutely no doubt. There is certainty. Yes, this is true for me. Yes, this is it for me. And that experience can literally change your life. Because you, having had that experience, you start to live in a different way. You start to live in a more truthful, real and authentic way. How do we know if it's our truth? We just know. There's no doubt. It's a moment where there's absolutely no doubt. It's not an insight. It's more than an insight. It's a moment where you just know. It's like all of us somewhere know what our truth is. It's just covered up by our conditioning, by who we should be, by what we've read, by what we've heard. In a sense, the Satori process is about uncovering our truth. And when you find it, there's no doubt. And what that does, when you find it, is it changes your relationship with yourself. That's all I can say. That's my experience of it. It changes your relationship with yourself. It changes your relationship actually with everything. And I don't think I can even explain how. That's just my direct experience. If the question arises, I'm not sure if that's my truth, then it's not your truth. Okay, so a question is asked, what if I don't like the truth I discover? But in a sense, that's the wrong question. You see, a moment of truth, there's no liking or disliking, there just is. It's the truth. Perhaps the question is about, am I going to need to face parts of myself, what I don't wish to look at, on the way to finding my truth? And the answer to that is yes, it can be that. Often we spend our everyday life avoiding looking at certain parts of ourselves, which prevents us from seeing the truth. So yes, on the way to find the truth, it may mean some moments of discomfort as we look at ourselves. It's like looking at ourselves under a microscope. But in a moment of truth, there's no what if I don't like it, what if I like it? Will I like it, will I not like it? It is just what is. It is simply what is. The notion of like or dislike is just not there. It's simply what is. Now, that maybe sounds a bit zen, but that's the truth. It's simply what is. So the Satori workshop sets up the conditions for a Satori experience to possibly occur. How do we do that? We do that by working with a koan. A koan basically is like a question, but it's a question where the answer doesn't arise from the intellect, let's say. We're not looking for, we're not seeking an intellectual answer. Rather, a koan can be answered by experiencing the question. I think that's the best way we can say it. And the question that we start off with working in Satori is, who am I? So we're not looking for an answer, we're looking to directly experience who I am, to directly experience my truth. And how it works is we sit with a partner, and in a very structured way we ask each other, tell me who you are. And that's primarily how it works. But although we're sitting with a partner, attempting to answer this koan, and it appears like ordinary conversation, it's actually very different from ordinary conversation. It's very structured. One partner speaks for 5 minutes, while the other partner simply listens. And that in itself is different from ordinary conversation. In ordinary conversation, often what's happening is when somebody is talking to you, you're just waiting for that person to finish, and then you say your thing, without actually listening. In Satori, we very actively encourage people to be open to listen to what's being said. We invite people to be as open as they can, as authentic as they can in their communications. And this authenticity combined with having a partner who is open to listen to you, creates a certain contact between the two people, which enables one to open further. Okay, so a question is asked: what happens when we face this other person? When we do the communication technique in the Satori workshop, what happens? I don't know what will happen. What will happen is what happens. What happens for me when I sit facing you is what happens. When I sit facing another person, maybe something else will happen. What my experience is in doing this technique might be totally different from what your experience is from doing this technique. Everyone is unique. There's no... That's one of the beauties of this process, if you like. There's nothing that has to happen. What happens is what happens. It's a journey, it's an exploration for you to reach your truth, to uncover your truth. How you get there, that's your story, that's part of your story. How I get there, that's part of my story. It's not the same for you or for me. But Satori is not about solving your so-called problems, your issues. It's not even about working on your issues. That said, usually your issues will come up, but it's not about finding a solution to your issues. What happens, rather, and this is what I mean about when you find your truth, your relationship to yourself and to others changes. What happens when you encounter your truth, when you realize, if you like, who you are, is that your issues, your problems, cease to become issues. It doesn't mean they disappear. It doesn't mean they're not going to be there. It doesn't mean you're going to be problem-free. But what it does mean is your relationship to your issues can change radically. Often the problem we have with our problems is that we become identified with them. We think we are the problem. We think the problem is us. One of the fundamental things in Satori is realizing who you are. Realizing that you're not your problems. Not as an idea, not as a concept, but as your direct experience. Okay, my experience with Satori. I first did a Satori group 33 or 34 years ago. And at the time, it was absolutely what I was looking for. I can still remember reading the brochure, the flyer for this workshop, and talked about the question, who am I? And I thought, that's exactly my question right now. That's exactly what I want to find out. And so I went along to this workshop, and basically it was a 5-day Satori workshop, and basically within one day I felt like I'd answered everything I could, and there was still another 4 days. And I don't remember now what happened, but what I do remember is that I had what I now can only call a strong Satori experience. Now, that was 33, 34 years ago, and since then, every few years, or lately every year, I participate in a Satori group. And I think the best way I can say it is that it's not about going to a 5-day workshop. it's simply about, and wanting to have an experience, wanting to have a Satori experience. It's simply about spending time with myself. For me, it's the best way for me to see myself, to look at myself. The fact that in Satori we are sitting facing a partner, we are communicating in words every 5 minutes, keeps you very focused. So without any effort, if you like, on my part, I can see where I am, I can see who I am. And that for me is what Satori is about. Just time to spend with myself.